Hello, Dominic.
Hi, Françoise.
Welcome, everybody, to this new episode of the Digital Edge podcast. Today, we are going to talk about, how to prompt LLMs. This is a very hot topic. Every time I'm, making a conference or doing training with adults on I get the question, how should I prompt? What is the best way to do it? I want to learn how to prompt. I think it's a very prevalent topic. And my sense is that people are maybe insecure about what they are doing and they are looking for ready-made recipes. Before we dive into the topic, do you have the same questions on your side?
Uh, I haven't gotten so much the questions about the best prompt. I still see a lot of resistance to even embarking on AI chatbots, right? So I think I'm spending a lot of energy encouraging people and with examples and uh, suggestions of diving into these topics. But it's a great topic, right? Especially for people who have tried something and have explored and are not sure whether what they're doing is the right thing to do.
Yeah. So I think what we want to explore today is, what are some, return on our experiences and maybe recommendations. But I think we have to be cautious because we know that everything changes all the time. I think you just told me before what ChatGPT was doing a year or maybe even 3 months ago is very different from what it is today. I mean, we saw Claude with a very new interface and way of working being released a few weeks ago. So probably what we say today will be obsolete in a few weeks, right?
Yes, so it is. I think that's might be the nature of the topic as well, right? To recognize and realize that these are tools and technologies in flux very much, and that what you're doing today is probably going to be different or obsolete in 3 months or much sooner even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the other point is that it's not a science that is true across all tools. I had this experience a few weeks back. I was trying to analyze a database and I gave the exact same prompt to ChatGPT and to Claude. With Claude, I got an almost perfect report, very well written with a good analysis and illustration. And with ChatGPT, I got crap. I mean, it was a memo that made no sense, was not formatted properly. So exactly the same file, exactly the same prompt, and very different outcome. And I'm not saying what that one is better than the other, but I think that's maybe a first lesson is, to be aware that some LLMs are better suited for some task, and that probably the way to interact with them is also different.
Yeah, I think that's a fair observation, right? That some tools are working towards different strength at this point, right? Where initially everybody was kind of general purpose and interactive chatbot, and it was awesome to get all these responses, which looked pretty good. But now there's a lot more specialization coming out of this. I mean, we have chatbots, of course, we think typically of text responses. You also have now, of course, the voice conversations, right? You can turn on the voice feature and have a natural language conversation in real time. You can generate images, you can generate videos. You can have virtual avatars that you can create. There's apps to make AI music, like, right?
Yes.
Songs from scratch with a one-line sentence, basically. You can do computer programs, which is a big use of AI. You can create documents, marketing plans, business plans, uh, create charts and analyze documents. Everything is basically possible. That's knowledge information, right? And so I think, to your point about specialization of tools, right? The figuring out what works where if the tool is not specifically geared towards that is probably a key piece to know, am I in the right place for the best tool for the job, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I think one point is to select the right tool for the right purpose. And within that, probably even for the same task, it makes sense to compare two tools and two versions. And sometimes, start with one and ask the other to refine and review. I think we are still at the stage where it makes sense to combine at least two LLMs or two tools to work on the same request.
Yes, that's possible. And I think I was just thinking it's even more confusing for the general user to have the same prompt and the same inquiry twice on a different day and getting different results.
Yes.
Right? And that's something that's typically not associated with software, where you say, hey, I'm gonna go to my application, I'm gonna make it do a task, and it's gonna come back deterministically. It's always the same, it's reliable. And now we have this seemingly random output, right? And it's of course designed accordingly, right? But it shows then up with different responses with the same input, which is
Mm.
something we didn't really have until, 3 years ago.
Yeah. I think another aspect maybe that is also causing the insecurity among users is, those hallucination. We know that AI is not always accurate. There are a lot of errors. So I think, maybe that's why people are not so comfortable. On that point, I think, maybe there are ways to prompt or to check like I have an example where I was working with Claude actually, and I thought that the responses were so great that I was suspicious, and I asked, can you show me where you got that? Can you show me the source? Is this coming from the file I
Is it
gave
real?
you?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So maybe that could be a recommendation that don't trust the answer blindly, and probe, ask the tool, where did this come from? What is your source? I think maybe to reassure users that they should say, do this, but show me your reasoning or show me your source. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great recommendation. My advice that I give people when they ask, like, what do you trust AI with? And I kind of, as a joke, say nothing that's important, right? Because if you can't trust it 100%, right, then it's kind of, you have to balance how reliable the information is and what do you want to do with it. And
Hmm.
if we're talking about, hey, what's the perfect prompt, or am I doing it the right way? I think the question might be more about, do I know what question to ask? And can I effectively determine what the response is, whether it's a valuable response to what I'm seeking? Right. And I
Yes.
think this is sometimes a little bit the dangerous thing with AI, right? Where we now think, oh my God, I can do anything, right? But if I don't have the wherewithal of at least having an idea to say, well, that doesn't sound right, let me do some research, or let me check somewhere else, or do a Google search and see, hey, is that really factual information, right? And I think that becomes then more of the human augmented aspect of AI, which we still need today to qualify the result. And so,
Yes.
I think it goes hand in hand to say, hey, what's the perfect prompt? Um, but you have to know what you're seeking, which is, unfortunate. Can't just ask and, guess
Yeah.
whatever comes back, and then also qualifying what actually comes back.
Yeah,
So
you said
I
you
think
said
that
yeah,
goes
sorry.
all together.
You said nothing important. I would say nothing that you don't know. So where I feel that it's relevant is if you can have a critical eye and say, okay, this doesn't sound right. But if it is a topic or subject that you have no idea about, that's where you are at risk, because you won't be able to point any error, mistakes, wrong data, wrong source, hallucination, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that that could be another piece of advice or cautions that you can use AI if you know what you are talking about.
Yes, exactly.
But not so much if it's a topic where you have no clue.
Yeah, if it's mission critical, right? Because then you also rely on something where you don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
An interesting use of AI that I have personally is providing guidance in cooking food. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not such a great cook, right? Or I don't remember many recipes other than probably making pizza from scratch. But other than that, I don't keep a library. I just go online. Or now these days, I asked AI chatbots and say, "Hey, I got these ingredients. Make me, you know,
Yeah.
something with that." And and most of the time, it actually works out quite okay.
Okay.
And
You
but there's
haven't killed
cases.
anyone yet?
No, but there's cases where last weekend I completely oversalted a chicken that I made.
Okay.
And so that was like, okay, maybe next time I should like double check with other sources because they didn't have that guidance on the amount of salt that I was supposed to put
Yeah.
on. Not
Okay.
mission critical, we still ate it. It was okay, but a lesson learned for next time for sure.
Yeah. Another bias that many LLMs have is being too nice, being too kind, being too complacent. So, one point about prompting is, I think I see it more and more, is to ask, tell me the truth, don't sugarcoat it, whatever. I think that that's a good practice as well, to ask for honestly, be blindly honest. I mean, there is a whole list of sentences that you can
Hmm.
use, but to try to get, maybe more objective
Hmm.
answers. What do you
Hmm.
think?
Yeah, yes, that's a good one. I've also seen the make no mistake add on to prompts, right? Which then also encourages the the best answer to come out.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean there are tricks like that, right? And yeah, I would also recommend to learn about this, to research, and just to really practice more and get more familiar, right? To build that confidence and be able to tell on your own when something is working right and when it's not working right. So you can be more comfortable in knowing, hey, this is a good response. I'm on the right track, or I'm wasting time here and getting derailed, right? Another thing, practice makes perfect, I think, or at least
Yes.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we are reaching the end of the podcast, but I take from our conversation that definitely it's about practice. There is a learning curve that everyone has to go
Very much
through,
so. Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
And maybe another point is that once you feel comfortable, that you understand how it works, you have defined some good prompts, don't rest on your laurels, because probably what works today will not work tomorrow. So it's a constant learning and questioning of what you do. Like I've switched from ChatGPT to Claude because I find it much better, but maybe it's going to change again, and I shouldn't trust Claude blindly because there is something that is better. So yeah, we have to keep testing, practicing, and learning.
Yeah, I fully agree. That's exactly it, right? It ties together with the rapid changes, the evolution, and we're far from the end of the line, right? So if users and if people can understand that this is an ongoing learning journey, and you only have the best what you have right now, and that it may change, and even the most expert users of AI, they go through the same process, right? And I think, again, like you said, it's a realization that it's ongoing, it's learning, it's practicing, and reflecting also, right? That'll probably get you in the best place where you can be at any point in time, at least for the near future.
Thank you, Dominic, for the discussion, and talk to you next time.
Yeah, super topic. Thank you, Françoise.